Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. Welcome to the Planning Board meeting of December 12th, 2024. First on the agenda for a public hearing is New York SA Limited Partnership, Verizon Wireless, Glenacom Lake. As you can see, Mr. Guardioso is on video tonight. He'll be answering any questions you may have. Mr. Guardioso, would you mind, can you hear me first off?
I can barely hear you.
Can you hear me better this way?
A little better, yes.
All right, let's try this. Can you please give an update from where we were previously to where we are today? I think it might save some time and answer some questions that the audience might or might not have. It'll certainly be beneficial to the board.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Robert Gaudioso with the law firm of Snyder & Snyder on behalf of the applicants, Homeland Towers and Verizon Wireless. Since the last meeting, the planning board did resolve to hold a public hearing, which is this evening tonight. We did meet with the zoning board last week. They held the public hearing, they opened the hearing, and they closed the hearing. They could not take a vote on the height variance because this board is lead agency under secret, so there has to be a planning board secret determination before the zoning board could take action. In addition to that, since the last meeting, the application was referred by the board to the county planning department. The county planning department did issue a memorandum approving the facility as proposed, and we did submit, since the last 2 meetings ago, we did submit the full stormwater pollution prevention plan, various responses to the town engineer comments, additional plans showing additional landscaping, and additional sight lines regarding some areas that were identified during the site visit. So with that, tonight is the public hearing, and we'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Is there anyone from the public that wishes to be heard tonight? Please get up to the microphone, state your name, please.
Can you hear me? All right. Good evening, board. Rob Cavallaro, 49 Walton. Since the last week we had the zoning board meeting, and before that we were here for the earlier planning board meeting. But last week I asked the zoning board members if they had reviewed any of the information that I sent in. I sent a letter to both the planning board and the zoning board, and there was some things that I was concerned about, and they kind of redirected me to tonight's meeting, hoping that maybe you guys or Mr. Gaudioso will be able to possibly answer any of my questions or concerns that I may have. I was told that all the members of the planning board and the zoning board and Mr. Gaudioso received the letter that I had sent in, and if I could just go over a couple of those things tonight with you, and hopefully you guys can shed some light on some of the concerns that I have.
Absolutely. Okay,
great. So my first concern was there was a report in the original application from 3/22/23. It was talking about MPE limit, and I was curious to know if anybody looked at that because it was talking about the radio frequencies being at 16.0916. Obviously the max is 100, and I just wanted to see if we can get some sort of certification or an updated report that shows that from here on in, none of those RFs are going to be increased beyond the 16.0916 radio frequency. And also, the other question is, it's very vague how the report states that the antennas are going to be pointing at 3 o'clock, at the 3 o'clock position, the horizon. So what exactly is that position that those antennas are facing? Is it facing down the hill towards Union Valley Road? Is it facing towards Lovell? Is it facing directly towards Walton Drive in the neighborhood? So these are the things we're trying to figure out as far as that's concerned. Also, as far as the construction of the tower, Walton Drive ultimately obviously might be being used for all the construction and stuff like that. And if there's any damage to the road, will the planning board or zoning board be requesting a bond to be posted in case any damage is done to Walton Drive? Because as you know, Walton Drive has been paved within the last 5 or 6 years. And with the amount of construction that's going to be occurring there, it's going to tear up our road. So whoever's doing the construction, and if there is damage to the road, it needs to be repaired. And I'm hoping that you guys would, somebody would be able to post a bond for that. So that's one of the concerns. Also, again, back to the radio frequency. The report was from Pinnacle Telecom, and I think it would make a lot of people feel better if they can recertify those statements and make sure that they're true and accurate as far as the radio frequencies. Because the 16.0916 is relatively low, but who knows, in 3 or 4 or 5 years, somebody's going to come up and turn up the dial, and none of us are going to know about it. I think that's really important to us, and we want to make sure that this is regulated somehow. And we're not going to have any of that. We're not going to know any of that if somebody is cranking up the dial on this. And that's pretty much all I have right now. But again, I really wanted to know if you guys had any. I know you guys have reviewed this already. So if you guys could possibly answer some of those questions for us, we'd appreciate it. And just on the record, we still don't want this thing anywhere near us. So you guys got to vote and do whatever you have to do. But I strongly oppose this for our neighborhood. It should not be there. It's still going to be an eyesore, no matter what it looks like. And it is going to affect all our lives in our neighborhood. Thank you, Board.
Thank you. Mr. Guardios, would you like to take a shot at responding first, please?
I'll just briefly respond that we did submit a radio frequency exposure report. As you, I believe, are aware, the issue of radio frequency exposure is federally preempted, provided that we demonstrate that the facility is in compliance with the FCC regulations. The report we did submit did document that we are in compliance with the FCC regulations, well below the FCC regulations. The report was prepared pursuant to the formulas that are required by the FCC, specifically in their bulletin OET 65. And the report was actually prepared not just with the project as proposed, but with a potential future co-location of 3 other carriers. So with that, we believe we've satisfied the federal guidelines. We're well within the federal guidelines as demonstrated by the Pinnacle report. With respect to Walton Drive, we've also committed to, and we've shown on the plans, that all of the staging for the construction of the facility will be on the property. We submitted an additional letter that even the utility run that will be performed on the property by Homeland Towers will be performed from on the property, and we don't anticipate any adverse effects to Walton Drive with respect to the construction.
Thank you. Rich, I also read that that the work is not going to be staged on Walton Drive. However, if there are numerous trucks going back and forth, even though if they're not staged on Walton Drive, is it appropriate to bond something like that?
That's a highway decision. Depending on the weight load of the car, we have asked that applicants bond to keep a road protected. That would come from the highway super on the grand scheme of things. Mostly it was for logging, so I don't know the weight of the equipment that's going to be coming in here, but if it matches that, I think we could request that. But right. Right, so Joe just mentioned we can ask that Mr. Gotti also speak to the Superintendent of Highways, Mr. Stern, Mike Stern, to determine if that would be necessary. Again, it's really going to be driven by the weight of the truck and the frequency of how many trucks are going to be there, and that would be a highway superintendent determination and decision.
I personally think it's something we should follow up on. I mean, no damage, no foul, no harm. But if there is, we should be able to protect the homeowners. Joe, you have any thoughts?
I just think it'll probably be easier to have Rob Godioso speak with Mike Stern and just get an opinion from him relative to that.
Great.
Because he can tell Mike the type and nature of equipment that would be going through there, the duration of it, and he'd be in a much better position to assess that than anybody on this board.
Great, Joe. Mike?
Yeah, back to what the gentleman said. Is there a way for them to actually crank a knob and turn up the RF on the tower? Is there
So if you look at the report was actually prepared using the maximum power that each of the federal licenses are licensed for. So the report already counts with the maximum power.
And if they change to 6G in 2 years, would that do something different, or is there a chance that could do something different?
Yeah, I don't want to speculate on such a vague, possibility. The fact of the matter is, though, that no matter what technology is used, no matter what frequency band is used, no matter what power is used, the facility must comply under federal law and pursuant to the requirements of its FCC licenses to remain within those guidelines.
I have a question, Mr. Godioso, regarding the Pinnacle report, and I remember that it was presented. Was that stamped by a licensed professional engineer?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear you.
The Pinnacle report, was it stamped by a licensed professional engineer?
Are you saying I'm still having a little bit of trouble. I think you're saying the Pinnacle report?
Yes, sir.
The Pinnacle report is prepared by Daniel Collins, who's the Chief Technical Officer at Pinnacle Telecom Group, but it's not required to be, nor is it stamped by a professional engineer.
I just feel it would carry more weight if it was.
Question, Mr. Gordioso, can you respond to the comment that was made about the orientation of the antennas?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
Hi, can you hear me?
If you could try that again.
Can you hear me?
A little better, yes.
Okay. Can you respond to the question that was raised about the orientation of the antennas?
The orientation of the antenna being at 3 o'clock.
Yeah, so the antennas actually propagate in 360 degrees. So they're not propagating at a specific degree on the 360 degree circular scale. They're actually propagating in a 360 degree area around the facility.
Okay, thank you.
So could the 3 o'clock mean 3 o'clock as in horizontal?
I don't know what that means, to be quite frank with you.
Meaning 3 o'clock and then because it goes 360 degrees around.
Yeah, the way the system is designed and the way it's shown in the documents is that there are 3 different sectors of antennas. Each sector covers 1/3 of 360 degrees, and then they propagate in a circle around the full site.
Thank you. Someone else from the audience wish to be heard? Please come up and state your name.
Linda Shaw, 53 Walton
I'm sorry, can you
Drive.
speak into the microphone, just for the people on television?
Linda Shaw, 53 Walton Drive, Mahopac. Did you get the recent letter I sent?
Yes.
Okay.
Ma'am, please speak closer to the microphone.
Yeah. So some of the things that I wanted to ask are, is this already a done deal? Are you all voting for this? Do you know?
It is not a done deal yet.
Is there any possibility that it won't pass?
I don't want to prejudge or speak for others.
Because I received this.
I'm sorry, we're having problems with the AV, you gotta speak loud, just for the people, I can hear you, but for the people on television watching.
I received this letter from NYSEG, complete with a work order for the electric pole and everything connected to it for the work to be done. So that seems like it's already been passed to me. How can you go ahead, how can NYSEG go ahead with this without approval?
I personally believe the letter is planning for the future, schedule time. I think it talks about underground wiring. Mike?
Yeah, NYSEG is not a government agency. They can do what they have to do on their side. That has nothing to do with the town. If they don't get their approvals, that letter means absolutely nothing.
It looks like it means something. Anyway, the other thing I wanted to know is, in that variance letter that was sent out, it says 50 feet is the accepted, and you're looking for they're looking for a 70-foot variance. Do you know that that's 140% increase?
That's the issue that's before the zoning board now.
I mean, that's huge.
The zoning board hasn't made a determination on that
140%
yet.
increase in height?
Yeah, it's still before the zoning board. They haven't made their determination yet.
Doesn't that seem extreme to you?
To me, doesn't matter what I think. Matters what the zoning board
Okay, the other
thinks.
thing is, in one of the thousands of pages online, there's a document that says the big concern is, and there's no reference to residents, I want to point that out, but they don't want this thing to be seen from parks or the bike trail. But then there's a drawing in there that shows how far up the cell tower is going to be visible from the bike tower. So do you care about that? Because in one document, there's a concern about the environment and where it's going to be viewed from. Again, I never saw any reference to the neighborhood, the Walton Drive area. But since it will be seen from the bike trail, shouldn't that be a big concern since that's in your documents? Especially at 120 feet. I mean, it's in there. There's a photo of the bike trail where the boat stuff is, you know, the boat yard on, I forgot the name of the road. Do you know where I'm talking about?
Yes, yes.
So it is visible from there. Anyway, so that's just one thing, but I was just wondering, does anybody here care about the construction that's going to be in my front yard, in my driveway practically, all the townspeople, and all of these construction vehicles, testing vehicles, inspecting vehicles that have been coming for, 7 years now, 2 different sites. They park right in front of my driveway. This isn't really a full two-lane road. It's a lane. It's a little tiny lane. And when people park behind my driveway, I have to go back and forth about 8 times to get out so I don't hit my mailbox. Why do these people park there?
The staging for this project, if it does go through, will not be on Walton Drive, it'll be on the property itself.
But these dozens of people that come all the time, I've counted up to 14 or 19 vehicles at one time. And they're all the way up the street, but most of them are in front of my mailbox, in front of my driveway, in front of my house, in front of my garbage cans. I can't stand it. I mean, I can't get in and out. It's not right. I'm the last house on the road. There's no turnaround area.
Mm-hmm.
I've been promised several times by planning board, town board, and zoning board that they wouldn't do that, but they do. This logging operation, I read that it said no more, when the original site was planned, which was just a few feet from my house, right off the road, no more than 40 trees would be taken down. Well, this site that's farther in the road and a little bit down says exactly the same thing, no more than 40 trees. I've had trees taken down on my property over the years. For every large tree, there's about 5 or 6 smaller trees that are just in the way, so they take them down also. Do you count those as part of the 40?
You do not count them. Only trees that measure 6 inches? 6-inch diameter at breast height, which is 4.5 feet off the ground, are counted as trees. Other than that, they're considered saplings.
Thank you, Mike.
Well, the other thing I saw in all these documents is 3 trees are going to be replaced. Wow. 3? I thought that guy, Mr. Gaudioso, said at one point that they would plant several trees. Now it's down to 3?
Mr. Guardia, so can you give us an update on what is planned from a tree perspective? If you are to take down 40 trees, do you know offhand how many trees will be replanted?
Yeah, no, those numbers are incorrect, Mr. Chairman. It's 28 trees that are proposed to be removed. That's delineated on the site plan, specifically sheet Z8. There are, the code requirement is 3 20-foot trees, which we did propose, but we have added 4 additional trees at 8 feet in height based on the site visit. We added those as well. So there's 7 trees, including 3 of which are 20 feet in height as required by the code.
Thank you.
Okay. What about our taxes for those closest? I know that you don't have anything to do with that, but who would here, the town assessor?
Taxes.
How, because I've read many times 7 to 12% we lose in property value. I seriously doubt that the town is going to knock our assessment down, because that would knock our taxes down. But definitely our taxes should be lowered. So how,
I personally, Joe, I don't know if you want to add to this, but I think you follow up with the assessor's office. Joe, I don't know if you want to add anything else to that.
Yeah, the planning board really has no input on that.
I would follow up with the assessor's office if this does go through.
Every year, you have the right to request a reduction in your taxes based on a change in circumstance, so you can bring that up to the board assessment review in May? March or May.
okay, well, just keep in mind that that's 140% increase in height.
Again, that's an issue that's currently before the zoning board. They have not made a determination as to that. There was a public hearing held a week ago.
Yeah, I couldn't
and
make that, but I
But your
think
letter
that-
is part of the record. It was circulated among the zoning board. They're
All
aware
right,
of it.
okay. All right, well, that's it then, thank you.
Thank you. Please come up, state your name.
Patricia Gandolfo, 48 Walton Drive. How close is this to the gas line?
Mike, Rich, Joe, do you know how close this is to a gas line?
Zero idea.
I do not know that.
If this thing was to fall and hit where the gas line is, what would happen? You think it might be like an environmental problem? Do you think we might have a fire? Everybody came together for the battery park that nobody wanted. Now you have a corporation coming in and putting something where we don't want, and we need to be protected too. There's electricity and there's gas where they want to put it now. So I think that should be taken into consideration. Find out what would happen if it fell, what the consequences would be. Thank you.
Anyone else from the audience wish to be heard? Please come up and state your name.
Good evening. Jason Gandolfo, also 48 Walton Drive. Just very quickly, I wanted to state that this entire situation happened because of shady dealings that our town council, the previous town council, has done. We went to court, we won. They're coming back. So to us, what's the message to us? That justice doesn't matter, court cases don't matter? It's disheartening. It cost this community a lot of money, a lot of pain. And yeah, now they're just coming back and nobody really knows what's going on. Whenever we talk to the town and try and figure out information, oh, you gotta talk to this one, you gotta talk to that one. Then you talk to whoever, nobody never knows what's going on. Oh, you know, come to this meeting, come to that meeting. We just wanna know what's going on and we want what's right. We don't want the cell tower here. We never did. We won in court. So that's it. Thank you.
Anyone else from the audience who should be heard tonight? Close the public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, as there are no other public comments, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Next on the agenda is Frey subdivision, 79 Secor Road.
John Carell for Mr. Fry. You've seen this before. This is kind of at the end of the road here. It's on for final plat approval.
This is a public hearing.
Public hearing, Jack.
Yeah.
I know, I talked to Rose, it says final plat, but okay, public hearing.
Anyone from the public wish to be heard? Rich, you have any comments you wish to be heard?
There are minor comments that I'm sure Jack can address. Once the subdivision is finally moved forward, for the other Lot 2, you have to do all the elements mandated by 131-13 of the town code. Other than that, this comments, again, Jack can address. The SWIP has to be updated in the future. Public improvements, all that kind of stuff with regards to the stormwater bond and maintenance. And the sketch subdivision plat will need to be signed and sealed. That's the only other thing that needs to be done. That wasn't provided, or at least in my records, it wasn't provided. So again, very simple stuff that can be provided prior to the next meeting if the board chooses to move forward with this.
Yeah, this has been around for a while. Pat and Mike had no comments. No one from the public wishes to be heard. Sure.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Jack, I'll have Pat prepare a resolution.
Yeah, but Jack, can you resolve all the issues that Rich brought? I'm sorry? Absolutely. Okay. I just want to make sure we're
Good point.
on the
Thank you.
same page.
Thank you. Yeah. Next on the agenda, 108 Barrett Hill Road, regrading.
This is on for a public hearing.
Yes.
We went out to the site with some planning board members, Rich. We went over with the adjacent property owner who was concerned about drainage onto his property. We improved the plan to put Belgian block down the side or along the driveway and a drainage ditch leading to the back to keep the water away from his property as best as we could.
Anyone from the public wish to be heard on this? Jack, when I was out there with you, when will the homeowner make these improvements?
When will the homeowner make the improvements? When you approve this.
Okay. No, I just want to make sure it gets done soon, once it's...
Oh, no, absolutely. He'll do it as soon as Rich tells us he can go out and do it.
I think it's pretty fundamental stuff, but I just want to make sure that it's treated seriously and that we follow up.
And that'll delineate the actual area so it doesn't grow over the next couple of years?
Delineate what actual area?
The plateau that you're going to park on, I assume, right? Isn't that what you did?
It's there already. It's an existing condition.
Correct, but you're going to delineate it with Belgian block, you're saying, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
and
it won't grow over the next couple of
Oh,
years and
absolutely,
get bigger
yeah.
and bigger. That's what they were trying to get, I think.
Yeah.
So that's a
Okay,
condition
sorry.
part of
That
the
is-
approval.
Of what's there, so it doesn't keep expanding.
Yeah, I guess the board votes on this, it moves forward.
Yeah.
The plan that came up was a little better than what we actually had discussed in the field, so I think it's a good conclusion to this.
And the neighbors seem to be satisfied with what we planned. Nick, you want to make a motion to close the public hearing?
Sure. Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Could we get
And
a
as
resolution?
Anthony said, we'll prepare a resolution.
Thank you.
And as Anthony said, we'll make this all conditional that the work gets done.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
That's all Jack had?
Next on the agenda, Americo Sereno, 205 East Lake Boulevard. Also on the agenda for a public hearing. Anyone from the public wish to be heard tonight on this applicant? I see Mike had no comments, Pat had no comments. Rich, anything you want to mention on this?
The only thing that's needed that can be included as part of the resolution is a 100-year floodplain elevation application needs to be submitted as part of the town code. Again, it's nothing crazy, it's relatively straightforward.
Mr. Chairman, there were 2 letters submitted by neighbors who were in favor of the project, just for record.
No, that's good. We'll make that will be part of the record. Anyone else from the public? Motion to close the public hearing, please.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A resolution will need to be developed, right?
Yeah, I'll have Pat prepare the resolution.
That'll be at the next meeting, that'll be voted on.
Good evening. Marcelo Carrillo, 1849 Route 6, also a public hearing. This also has been on the agenda for a while. Anyone from the public wish to be heard on this?
Good evening.
Good evening.
We did a drawing with the architects.
You asked for landscaping, remember you
Yeah,
wanted it better.
I think we asked for it many times. Thank you.
So you can take a look.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, much better.
Very nice.
That Mr. Nugent helped me to do this, and that's gonna look actually. The only color of the house, when we did the printing, it didn't come out the color. We put it a camouflage green. It's gonna be on the siding, and the roof is gonna be a little bit brownish the color.
When I drive by this, which is often, I'm going to smile every time I go by.
Yes, sir. I'm gonna make it look nice.
Yeah, yeah. This is great. I think this is a good example, right, of
Making it better.
making it better, right?
Yeah.
Everything
Yes.
we touch should be better, right?
Yes.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, being there's no public comment, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Nice
very
job.
much.
Thank you.
There are some minor comments that still need to be addressed, but they can be included as part of the resolution. So
Did you hear
form
Rich?
respond.
There's a couple items that have to be done. You can follow up with Rich for us to proceed. I'll ask Pat to prepare a resolution, but in parallel to that, you need to satisfy Rich's requests.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
Rose will have a copy of them.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Pat, you want to make a motion to adjourn? Next on the agenda, RPK Precision Homes, Seminary Hill Road, also for a public hearing. That's fine.
Okay, good evening.
Please state
Good
your name.
evening.
Thank you.
My name is Rosemary Gillen. I reside at 17 Tango Lane in Carmel. I thank the planning board for your time and attention to this matter and for your service to the community. The backyard of my house borders on RPK Precision Homes project and is downhill from the site. My house is on the west side of Tango Lane. I purchased my home in July of 2022. Since then, the water runoff and flooding was present. The conditions are dangerous, destructive, and frightening. On the left side of the house, a literal stream forms, several inches deep, running with enough force to wash away a small child or a pet. I can see what I believe to be a sinkhole developing due to the amount and force of the water. It has made its way into a hole and it continues to enlarge. In addition to the stream, the water overflows my entire half-acre of property, leaving my yard saturated and unusable. The water runs over the driveway and freezes in cold weather, causing dangerous and hazardous conditions, and my having to attempt to de-ice these conditions. I put up a fence to keep my dogs safe, but with each rainfall comes flooding, and each flooding erodes the soil under all four sides of the fencing, hence causing me to have to replenish soil and rocks and railing to fill in the gaps. As of September 24th, RPK has made changes to their drainage system to reduce the flooding on Tangle Lane, but I am not aware of anyone checking to see if the flooding situation has changed. I would like to inquire if there are any reports of inspections made by the town after the changes were made during heavy rain events, but at the moment that is not feasible given the state of the drought and the dryness over the last few months. So the current conditions are not a good reflection of how the drainage is working. I appreciate that the changes were made to the project to mitigate the flooding impacts on my property, but I'm not aware of any evidence that is presented that these changes actually reduce the flooding. I would respectfully request that the planning board advise that the performance bond should not be returned either in full or in part until such time evidence has been presented by the developer that the change to the stormwater features effectively reduce the flooding to Tangle Lane. My legal representative suggested that I suggest that the drainage conditions be observed over at least 3 heavy rainfall events to determine the effectiveness of the stormwater control system. The town engineer, sir, has reviewed the work and found that it was completed, but there is nothing in the record that I am aware of from the town engineer that the changes eliminated the flooding on Tangle Lane. The rain yesterday was significant. My property was quite wet, but I did not see a stream formation as usual or any flowing water into the sinkhole. But due to the dry conditions, I am unable to gauge with any certainty if mitigation efforts are successful. That's my story.
Paul, do you want to update us on what was done? Rosemary mentioned that on September 24th, there were improvements made, and I'll maybe hand over to Rich after that.
I'm going to back the clock up. I'm going to back the clock up back to the 2015 time period before RPK touched the ground. We have a pre-development drainage basin map that shows that the previous owner on the property that the Gillens purchased was obviously suffering from flooding issues. And what they did was they installed a catch basin in the right-of-way, which tied into the town's drainage structure in the street. They then ran a pipe up their side yard, had an end section, and then there was a swale that extended back to the RPK property to pick off whatever runoff was coming, which does come from that property. Now, this all took place before RPK started doing any work. So that tells me there's already a flooding issue. Because why would anybody, a homeowner, go to the expense of adding a catch basin, installing piping, putting in an end section. And then even after that time period, between then and now, that piping has been extended all the way to the backyard. And that's where the end section is now. So there is horrendous soil up there. And you get runoff.
Is that catch basin still there today?
Oh, yeah, it's there. I went out and saw it last week. And that's why, if you look at this map, you'll see the blue line that runs down. This is an existing condition before we started.
Can you show us where the house is? And
The Gillen house is here. That's the Gillen house. So on that property, or actually in the right-of-way, was installed a new catch basin. Piping was brought up. There was an end section installed here, which is halfway up the property line. And then there was a swale that extended back. So that's why this pre-existing drainage basin is broken into two basins, because anything running down here comes along and at this point gets intercepted by that swale, which then goes into the end section, which then goes into the pipe. So there's always been a water issue problem there.
thank you.
There's nothing that RPK did. Actually, what RPK did was make an improvement on what would be the existing drainage conditions if they hadn't built anything, because all this would still be running down towards that property.
So what did you do on September 20, or what did RPK do on September 24th?
They had originally, you can see how their complex had cut a big chunk out of what was the pre-existing condition. What they ended up doing was they extended the berm behind their buildings. So they extended the berm behind their buildings to capture more runoff from other lands. And that all gets diverted and gets routed around, goes into this pond, which then goes into the street's drainage system. It all ends up in the same location at the end of the day, which is down at the brook. But the actual project itself, from a stormwater management situation, actually improved the condition for her property. It didn't harm it.
Rich, anything to add?
I think Paul did all those assessments. Mike and I have been out there in rain. We met with the Gillens, we met with the neighbors up there. We've walked on the neighboring properties. My understanding, and Paul, you can confirm this, before anything was built there, before any of those homes were built there, there was a stream in that area. So, you know, it was a wet area. You have the, Pulte has the wetlands in the upper corner where the greens were, so there's some water up that way. You have the Arms Acres right there. There's about a 5-acre field that all goes right on the other side of that berm. So there, as Paul said, there's a lot of flow that goes there. There's a retention pond on Arms Acres that, you know, has water. Whether it's functioning or not is a whole nother story. You know, so, you know, Paul gave you the assessment of what was that drainage area, what it looks like today. RPK has done everything that we've asked them to in regards to addressing the stormwater issues, and they've directed everything to that stormwater pond on their property.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
Yeah, Paul, can you go back to the map that showed the berm? And using that map, where would Tangle Lane be?
This is actually the Gillen's property is here.
Okay.
So that berm basically cuts off everything coming from this complex. I mean, obviously, there's drainage structures up in here that are taking things to the pond, but what comes off these back buildings here, that goes into the berm. They also installed a French drain, which in essence is, hey, if we got groundwater issues, groundwater flows into the drain, you have gravel, it's a lot easier for water to travel through gravel with porous space than it is through the silty soil that exists. So any groundwater hits that drain, it gets diverted to go to that pond.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, we heard that after the torrential rains we had the last week or so, you really didn't notice that much water. So I think that's a good sign. Hopefully what the RPK did is help.
What RPK did will help them, but the fact is, the soil in that area, from Seminary Hill through Pulte down to Stoley, is just a very silty, high silt content soil. So when it rains, what happens is that silt expands, closes off the pore space in the soil, so groundwater slows down. It just doesn't move. So if it can't move, all it's going to do is come up, and it stays on the surface, and it's just runoff.
Is this the only house that's affected by that?
I do not know.
No, I observe both sides of my house, their properties are affected as well. But I can't speak for them. I mean, they're not here, so, I mean, I can only speak for myself.
Yeah, it was the 3 properties. The highway department had a problem with water on the road, so they actually put another catch basin, I believe, between you and Tom.
That's correct.
I think that's the right person. I get confused
That's
with
correct.
names. So they did put a catch basin there to try to catch more of the water before it gets on the road and gets icy. Gave them permission, if they put in a permit, to tie in a drain to catch the water in the back, pipe it to the catch basin, but they want to witness the work if they're going to do it. So there is a lot of...
That's the neighbors, not me, on the neighbor's property,
Correct.
yes.
So that's still happening?
They're allowed to. They have to do it if they want to. Yes, they're allowed to do it.
Let me ask maybe a hypothetical question, putting aside who did what when and what the history is. Understanding the condition, as Paul explains it, with the poor soil, is there anything that could be done that has not been done to alleviate the condition that we're hearing Madam is complaining of?
In my non-engineering words, a catch area at the back between Ms. Gillen and Mr. Pulley that would catch water, get it into a pipe, and run it out to that catch basin I was talking about would go a long way to help.
But that catch basin is in front of Mr. Pulley's property. Would I be able to put a catch basin on my property and align it to that catch basin? Like, my point is, it's not like in front of my property. Would I be able to?
I can't give you...
You know what I'm saying?
Sure. I can't give you permission to dig on Mr. Pulley's property. I can...
No, on my property,
Agreed.
yes, but on my property, would it be effective? Because I'm saying that catch basin is not in front of my property.
Correct.
So if I installed something on my property, how would I make it line up to that catch basin? Or would I have to request another catch basin to be put in front of my house?
You would try to...
You understand my question?
I do. And I don't know the exact location in my head. I can't picture it from here. But if you can get to it, either by getting permission from Mr. Pulley or some way getting to that catch basin would be the ideal way. Otherwise, there's...
No, but it's in the street.
Correct.
It's your property.
Correct, but if you're saying you can't get to it because it's too far up the road, is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, so
on
you
your
have-
property, so why would I need permission from Pulley to get to it?
As long as you're not crossing Mr. Pulley's property.
Yeah, if you're not
to get
crossing
into
his
it.
property,
Like,
you can
that's
go
what
to
we're
it.
referring to.
Absolutely. So if you put I don't know what they call it, where you collect, like a plunge pool?
Yes.
It's like a pool where you would collect the water that's coming off of RPK, and then a pipe coming off of that and pipe to the catch basin. That would alleviate a lot of your problems because it would go through the pipe instead of going across the top of your grass. Again, I'm not an engineer, I'm just talking in
Yeah, and
layman's
again,
terms.
the thing is, like I said, it was installed in front of Pulley's property, so I don't know that I can access, I would be able to access it, just because of its location, not because of its ownership.
Sure. Correct, and that's what I was saying. So if you had to go across the corner of Mr. Pulley's property to get to the catch basin, if he gave you permission to do that, and then you would put the grass back, maybe you can do that. But that's between you and him. You'd have to get his
Yeah.
permission. What I can do is come take a look and see what the location is and see what I think. I would help you with that.
That would be great. I would appreciate that.
Now, none of this, correct me if I'm wrong, seems to be RPK's responsibility. right now?
Not if they captured their water that they have. I mean, if they're doing what they can. When we were out there over the summer, it was during the, I don't know, was that a 100-year storm?
There was some major storm that we
Major
were out there.
storms. The water was over my boots, meaning over the top of my foot, all the way across the field from Arms Acres. We walked all the way to the paddock, I think they call it,
Yeah.
where the horses run.
We trudged through all that water.
It was 5 inches of water, without exaggeration, through the whole grass area.
It seems that's pre-existing.
Drenched, so
To
that's what I'm
this
saying. Some
residence.
of it could be from here, I'm not saying
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
because I'm a building inspector, but when you walk all the way across all these properties and there's still 5 inches of water all the way through this whole thing, it's volume. You have this large, like a roof of a building, collecting it and putting it into one V, and then it comes towards these poor people. That's a hard situation.
Yeah,
But we had a lot of rain this past few days, and it sounds like something went right in that.
I'm hoping. I mean, there was a lot of rain yesterday and last night, but it wasn't that much rain. It could have been more, but there was a lot of rain. And like, as I said, there was no streaming and there was no water pooling into the sinkhole. I mean, usually it's really bad. So I'm just hoping, I'm taking that as a good sign that what was done is going to help us. But I mean, under the conditions like the severe drought, all the reservoirs are empty, all the bodies of water are empty. So whatever's happened, like I said, you can't gauge with certainty and say, because everything is just being absorbed, because everything is just dust. So,
Is that thing you're calling a sinkhole near your drain? Okay, that's important, because if it's by the drain, you could have a pipe that disconnected, and it's eroding. That happens a lot.
I see the water going into it, and
I tend to
just,
think it's stumps that were buried 30 years ago.
That's generally what happens. The stumps last a certain amount of time, and then all of a sudden, boom, they go, and that's when you get these little pockets, but.
Rich, what are you recommending for a bond return? It's
I'd
200,000.
recommend it 100% back. I mean, they've done everything, performance bond wise, for RPK, they've done everything they were supposed to do. I know that doesn't make the public happy, but they've done everything we've asked for, and they have done everything that was required by the planning board for that project. And I would say, and some.
That's why I'm trying to differentiate what's the homeowner's responsibility at this point and what's RPK. Is there anyone else from the public that wishes to be heard on this? Any other questions from the board here?
So we're confident that nothing else RPK should do or could do would alleviate this, right?
Bob Frenkel asked the question, you're asking the question. Yeah, with enough money and engineering and everything else, everything can be fixed and solved, right? So can RBK do more? They've done what they were supposed to do for the performance bond as for the planning board. Yeah, and then some. Yeah, can they, do a million other things, but to what end, right? Could they just pipe everything right to their, to the stormwater basin they have and just do it that way? I guess they could, but they're doing that already, right? So it's, I don't mean to be flippant about it when I say that, right? It's, I don't think so, but of course I'll caveat it with, yeah, there's always more that can be done. RPK has done everything that they needed to do for the performance bond as required by the planning board. Plus some.
Yeah, thank you.
Look, since Mike has volunteered, I think I'd like to join him, go out to your residence.
I have Mrs. Gillen's phone number, I will be in touch.
Rich, would you be?
that you can offer me.
Rich, would you be okay with if we hold $50,000 in the bond until Mike and I get out there, which would be only 2 weeks? This has been kicked around for a while. I don't think it's fair to RPK to keep the 200,000.
I don't think it's, I'll be honest, I don't think it's fair to keep a dime at this point.
I'm sorry?
I don't think it's fair to keep a dime. I think they've gone above and beyond the call of duty. They have made, conditions better. They honestly have. If this was a, shoddy engineering deal, I would say, okay, I would have issues. But in this case, I don't. They've done everything they can to divert water that was originally going to that property and have taken it away.
I'd feel better since Mike and now I'm gonna go out there if we hold $50,000. It's been around for a while. We turned $150,000 on the bond, and it's be to the next meeting.
I got, to your point, I have a question. The next step here would be approval by the town board if we were to close this public hearing. That's not going to happen for a couple of weeks, correct?
Right.
So we do have, and we could we rescind the recommendation to return the bond?
I suppose you could, right?
Well,
They'd have to have cause, yeah.
yeah. I
Well,
mean,
I'm just saying the cause could be something that is not being seen or has been seen.
I think you're dealing with two different issues. So Paul's right, they did what they were supposed to do.
Well, that's what I'm trying to,
There's more stuff going on there. What else could we do? What else could, it's not RPK's burden.
Right.
Maybe it's something we could do, DPW could do. That's a fair question. What else could happen? But this approval, the narrow objective of what you were being asked to do is, did they do what was approved on the plan? And you heard that they did.
Which they did, right? What's the board's thoughts on return on full bond? Let's take a little roll call here.
Well, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, please.
No, I was gonna say, the point that was just made, can it be rescinded, before the town board approves the whole thing? So if you get to go out there and look at it and find that there's something you could recommend, then maybe it gets rescinded or held?
What's the answer on that, Joe? So if we return a full bond, and Mike and I go out there next week,
Yeah, I don't like that. So let's just back up for a second. So the town engineer is making a recommendation to the board for the full return of the bond, and the board has had an opportunity to listen to the public's input with respect to this matter. And that input is essentially that RPK has done everything above and beyond what they've been asked to do with respect to this. So let's say the board denied the return of the bond. RPK would then have an action against the board, potentially the determining factor would be whether or not the board was arbitrary and capricious in its decision. You've got your town engineer who's telling you that for all intents and purposes, they've done absolutely everything they could have to alleviate any drainage issues out there, that they've done everything to within the specifications of the final planning board approval. So it would be very difficult to defend that position. With respect to your second question as to whether or not it makes sense to rescind a previous decision made by the planning board, regardless of what that decision entailed, there would have to be some sort of change in circumstance to warrant that, and then there would have to be, there potentially may be a better than unanimous vote required as a result of that. I think.
In theory, short of rescission, if as a result of if we approve return today and then made a site visit as described and found something that, let's say, we didn't like, we could inform the town board of that circumstance, and then the town board can make its decision based on that information.
So I would echo Joe's position, just be careful. So if you go out there and you confirm that they did everything they were supposed to do, but you could have built a 12-foot tall wall there, and why didn't you do
No, I
that?
understand.
You didn't require them to do that. Could they build, Paul said it, could they build a 12-foot tall wall around the property? Yeah, they could, but that wasn't what they what you approved. So is there something more that could be done? Maybe there could be, but it's not this conversation. It's a different conversation.
And let's be careful shifting the burden to the town board in terms of whether to approve the return of the bond. They are going to rely on your recommendation. You are going to rely on your consultants.
Yep.
They are relying on that. So
Agreed.
The town board is not going to then turn around and say to Rich, why don't you go out there and now do another set of inspections? This is why we're here.
Yep, no, I agree with that. I totally agree with that, Joe.
And just, again, a little bit of part of that history, which Paul really didn't touch on, and he can maybe after this, that berm was never part of the original site plan approval. It came afterwards in response to issues that came up along Tango Lane. So you know, the berm was put there by, as a request from folks on Tango Lane. I don't know if you were there, Ms. Gillen, when that happened, but, you know,
No.
that was not on the original site plan. That was a request made by the residents on that road.
And then we requested them to extend it another 25 feet, I believe it was, or 30
I think
feet.
it's more like 50 to
50.
75,
There
which
you
we
go.
did. And they also installed the French drain
Yeah.
to capture whatever they could.
So it does seem that RPK's gone above
May
and
I
beyond.
ask, when, that was done in September, sir? Was that completed, or was that
No, it was earlier,
earlier?
earlier,
Okay.
yes.
Can I make one other observation, which is, you know, that's the site plan, that's the work that has been completed. There has been confirmation from our own advisors that has confirmed that that work has been completed. What else is there?
Anyone else wish to be heard from the public? Do we have a motion to close the public hearing?
I will make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to recommend a bond return.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Just to be specific, a full bond return.
Full bond.
Thank you, yes.
Okay, thank you.
And we will, Mike and I will still come out.
Just out of curiosity, when you bought your property, did you have an engineer do a site inspection for you?
No, sir, just an inspection.
Okay, I'm just curious.
I mean, is it typical to have an engineer for a site inspection? Is that when you buy a house? I don't know.
Sometimes, yes, if.
No. Next on the,
No.
next on the agenda is Cass Subdivision 90 Mexico Lane. Mike, I don't believe you had any comments. Rich, I believe you did on Cass Subdivision.
Do we have an applicant?
Oh,
Do we have an applicant?
let's hold this over. Are you?
I'm here.
Are you for Cass?
Yes.
Okay.
He's here for the next 3 at least.
Yeah, I get 3 in a row, or
Jeez.
4 in a row.
So, this is 90 Mexico Lane, provide a signed and sealed licensed survey of the property. The drawing does not contain information regarding areas preserved to be reserved for open space. As the subdivisions are refined, for Lot 2, all elements from Section 131 of the Town Code should be included. You should provide a separate subdivision plat. General comments are the standard referrals to DEC, DEP, DOH, Highway, Mahopac, and Mahopac Falls Fire Department for stormwater, Putnam County for well and stormwater for septic, New York City DEP for stormwater, depending on area of disturbance that may or may not be needed, but it's just recommended. There is no area to be disturbed, so we don't know what the stormwater permitting requirements are. It will require coverage under the Speedies permit. Public improvements, standard comment on that on the grand scheme of things. A performance bond may be needed. And maybe a stormwater bond and maintenance guarantee will be needed, so.
And Pat?
I don't know if I'm looking at the wrong memo. This is my October 17th memo. That's the last time they were in front of us. Did you address all those issues?
We did most of them, because we had our public hearing 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay. Well, if you addressed them, Paul, then we're good. Forget about it. Scratch that.
Well, we do need state coverage for NOI. Yes, all that information was on.
So, Mr. Chairman, you have a neg deck and a final approval resolution. There is a condition that all of Rich's comments have to be addressed, the general condition. So if any of those have been missed, which I don't know if they have been, we have that catch-all in the resolution. So we can't grant you a building permit until you satisfy all those conditions anyway.
Correct.
Do you know if you ever, oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Mike.
Do you know if you ever got the easements all submitted to Joe for review? Because there were some cross easements on.
No, that's the next project.
Oh, that's not what we're on? I'm sorry. I
No,
thought you-
we're on Cass, clean.
Got a no for later, though?
No.
Any questions from the board? This also has been around for a while.
Pat, does it matter whether the neg deck goes first or the?
So
So, Mr. Chairman, I'll offer the resolution of the Planning Board of the Town of Carmel, number 24-24, December 12th, 2024, tax map number 53.2-17, Cass subdivision, seeker determination of significance, negative declaration.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And you want to make the... Good. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Do it? Okay. Mr. Chairman, I'll offer the final subdivision approval resolution of the Planning Board of the Town of Carmel, number 24-25, December 12th, 2024, tax map number 53.2-17, Cass subdivision.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is 345 Austin Road, also for a resolution. Rich, I believe you had some comments?
So again, this is the same thing. Both of my memos are dated October 17th. I don't know if Paul addressed them or not. The resolution has been put forth. I missed last month's November
Right.
meeting, so I don't know if that information was provided. Paul needs to confirm that. Pat and I just talked. Pass the resolution, authorize it to move forward, but we don't sign it until we confirm that everything is there.
It would be caught at the resolution, right? Yeah. And this has also been on the agenda for quite a while. I know, I've been out there, many people have been out there.
The only thing that's still outstanding is the two attorneys working out the maintenance agreement. So once that's ready, Joe will get a copy.
The neighbor
Yes.
attorney, good.
Yes.
Because that was a
long
big,
driveway. with the-
Yes.
yeah, the neighbor had concerns, remember he showed up, he
Yeah.
wanted to make sure that the easements were all
Yeah.
good, so.
All right, same as the last, Ray, if you don't mind.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah, Bob.
Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the resolution of the Planning Board of the Town of Carmel, number 24-26, December 12, 2024, tax map number 64.9-1-13, Shalaku subdivision, seeker determination of significance, negative declaration.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then, Bob, we need a motion to adopt the final subdivision.
And I'll make that motion to adopt the final subdivision approval resolution of the Planning Board of the Town of Carmel, number 24-27, December 12, 2024, tax map number 64.9-1-13, Schlagu subdivision.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Getting comfortable up there, huh?
Old Forge, I think.
Also, for subdivision, Old Forge Estates, Baldwin Place Road, preliminary approval cluster subdivision. I believe this is a 14-lot subdivision, Paul?
Yes.
Yeah. Mike and Pat, I don't believe you had any comments. Rich did have some comments on this.
I have no objection to doing the preliminary subdivision approval. Plans remained unchanged. There's a list of things that the applicant has noted, in particular, updating the bonds at 2025 values, and all the other, permits that will be needed for the project. That was it. So my comments are okay. You can move forward with this one.
And he clarified that it's going to be a town road. Remember, I wasn't sure last
Yes.
time.
So it will be a town road.
It will be a town road.
Well, we're going to offer it for dedication, and then it's up to the town.
So you're going to build it to the standard of a
Yes.
town road.
Yes.
That's important for that reason.
Confirm with us what those details are,
Yes.
just so that they're on the plan. We've had little issues with that in the past.
So take us through this project briefly, if you don't mind. It's been around for a while.
It was
Some people are
originally
newer here.
a 10-lot conventional subdivision.
I'm sorry, start again?
Originally, it was a 10-lot conventional subdivision that received approval.
How many years ago are we talking here?
Oh, it probably dates back to the mid-2000s.
Okay.
At that point, there were issues with the road, which pretty much follows the same configuration. But what happened was when you got to the back part of the property, you were going to cross over a stream. And the city of New York deemed that as a second water crossing because they considered the wetland in the front that runs along Baldwin Place Road as a connected water course. So that they called that our one crossing, and then with the 10-lot subdivision, when you got to the top of the hill, crossed over, you couldn't pave that. So all of a sudden, you had a road you couldn't, you had a 2,000-foot-long road and 300 feet where you couldn't pave. So it became an issue for, one, you can't dedicate it to the town. Two, now you need an HOA. Three, now you got a maintenance issue. And from there, I think the economy kind of tanked at some point. And then 2013 or 14, we looked at the idea of clustering the project and keeping it on the downhill side of the property. Went through the process, developed 14 lots, found septic system that would handle the design flow for the 14 lots. You have town water is proposed. And we went through the process, got our approvals, got our preliminary approval, needed to form what they call a transportation corporation. And the transportation corporation allows for the New York State DEC to grant a speedies permit to discharge more than 1,000 gallons of septic into the soil. And this is one of those, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Putnam County Health Department and City of New York would not issue a approval without having a speedies permit. The town board wouldn't allow for the formation of a transportation corporation unless there was a speedies permit in hand. So we went through several years of, renewing the subdivision and not getting anywhere. So at that point, they decided, well, let's just stop paying the renewal fee every 6 months until we can get this resolved. And ultimately, the county was able to issue a construction permit because it's really a two-step phase. So technically, yes, we have a construction permit issue. We have approval from the health department, which now would allow the town board to vote on forming a transportation corporation so I can get my speedies permit so that I can have all my T's crossed and I's dotted. But the preliminary approval had expired. So now the town wants us to have a reinstated approval. So that's why we are now back to get that approval reinstated so that we can move forward and complete our approval process and build the project.
Wow.
Yes,
When were you looking to start building? It depends on your approvals.
last year.
Next year. Wow. Good, okay. All
I
right.
mean, I'll be honest, it's hard to find building lots, and they want to build, and
Good.
they will, yes.
The only other thing I will caution the board with, we talked about a town road, and it was confirmed that it wants to be dedicated. I would speak to the highway superintendent about it, because I don't know if he wants to take any more roads. So.
Well, that's why I said it'll be offered, whether or not the town takes it.
Right, but you need to, I would just get that up front from him and figure it all out, and versus offering it, and just, then maybe you don't have to build it to town
Correct.
code. But
Save
you should
yourself
always-
some money.
You should probably always build it to town code in case it ever wants to get dedicated in the future. But, I don't know if the highway super is gonna take it. That's not my response to give. I'm just telling the board that, and I'm letting you know as the applicant's representative.
Good advice.
Thank you.
Questions from the board?
How many houses are there on there?
14.
14.
So then, Pat, our next step is just to,
Public hearing.
okay. So let's get this to a public hearing.
I think, do you need to declare yourselves the lead agent, because we did the,
I think we.
no, we did the intent to declare lead agency, but.
Oh, so that's what I thought we did, so you don't have to confirm that, we typically will do that when we adopt the neg deck.
Okay.
In the day.
Okay,
Next meeting is in January.
Okay.
Talk to Rose, get on the agenda.
okay.
Sure. We need a motion to schedule a public hearing, right?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to schedule a public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
Next meeting. Thanks, Paul. Why don't we, just, since it's just for an extension of the final subdivision, why don't we jump forward to Western Bluff and then leave Centennial for, are you Western Bluff? Is anyone here from Western Bluff? I am. We'll try to move you up a little bit.
The reason I asked the woman about the question is because normally if you see a drainage channel in your property and an intersection,
used to be a water course.
You're not using the microphone.
All right, Western Bluff's here for a extension of final subdivision. How long has this project been on the books?
Well, my father started this project 9 years ago to subdivide, that 15 acres into 3 lots. He did not live to see it, so now I've inherited it. And I just couldn't get $500,000 together to do all this stuff. But I do want to be able to sell this lot with that ability that a developer could buy it and finish the subdivision. And then of course, the town gets 3 new houses with more taxes. And I'm just looking for one more extension because I'm got a realtor, I'm ready to sell it, but I want to sell it with this ability.
So before I ask if there's any comments, can you just do a 2-minute, you started, but just give us a 2-minute
Okay.
overview, and there's a lot of new board members.
Well, it's 350 West Shore Drive, which borders the reservoir, and that's what took, 8.5 years using Kellard Sessions for engineering because of all the approvals necessary, with New York City watershed and all that. And boy, that's a learning process, the tree survey, all that stuff. And I don't know if my father realized how involved it was, but he died at age 91 and now it's me. And I don't have $500,000 to put in that special driveway and all the water improvements and everything else.
How many acres is this?
It's 14.97 or so, or 15 acres really. So we want to do 3 5-acre lots, put a 4-bedroom house on each. Well, not me, but hopefully somebody will. But I'm going to put it up for sale as one 15-acre parcel with the ability to be subdivided, because I think it'll bring me better money that way. But
great property.
I live in Indianapolis, Indiana. I can't be, really super involved on overseeing a project of that nature, which I've never done. I didn't realize how much money was involved, but now I know.
Yeah.
And but I do wish to sell it with the ability to be subdivided, and of course, you guys get another $2,500. It's always a good deal.
I don't believe Mike and Pat had any comments
Yeah,
on
just
this.
to emphasize, this board spent an extraordinary amount of time on this subdivision. There was a lot of issues with respect to that special driveway that he mentioned before, if you remember. It was unique because of its proximity to the reservoir and so forth. So the plan that was approved, you put a lot of elbow grease into that plan, so it's a good plan. So keeping it alive is a good move. And again, it's only 3 lots on 14 acres, so it's not an impactful subdivision the way you've approved it.
And Rich, anything you want to add to that?
No objection to the extension of the final subdivision. The applicant did provide, Kellard and Sessions provided a list of permits that were out there. The New York City DEP stormwater approval expires in April of '26. Putnam County Department of Highway and Facilities has expired, so they need to get that again, but that's because it's on a county road. Department of Health approval for the septics expires in April of '28, and they are on next week's ECB agenda to get because their ECB, their wetlands permit expired in September, but they're going to go on for an extension next week. So the only thing they got to get is the highway facilities, which isn't a big issue. So.
Mike, anything you want to add? We need a motion to grant.
Can I ask one question?
Sure, please.
I'm just a little bit confused about something. I understand the extension part, I have no objection to it, but I'm not understanding the connection between what happens after we give the extension to where you end up being able to sell the property with the benefit that you're describing. So what happens after today?
So, well, he still has, there are final subdivision conditions that need to be satisfied, the permits Rich just described. So until those are all approved, chairman can't sign the plat can't get filed. So it's a pending final subdivision until he completes all his conditions of approval.
And there's an expectation that all those conditions will be approved?
Yes.
And how soon will that happen?
Hopefully, 3 months, because we just need to have the approval. I need to sell it. We hope to sell it to a developer who will then do all that stuff and make it happen, because they'll make decent money at it.
I'm still confused. I thought you just said you're going to sell it, and then the developer is going to get it approved. Is that what you're
Well,
saying?
no, I'm looking for the approval now, so when I do sell it, that it's already got it.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay.
That would make it more attractive, I believe,
I
to,
get it.
Yeah.
you know, various developers.
Yep.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Anything else, anyone else? No. The little overview was helpful, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
We need a motion to grant the final subdivision. Extension, 180 days, 6 months.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion for a 180-day, 6-month extension of the final subdivision approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good luck, thank you, have a good night.
Appreciate it.
Last but not least, Centennial Golf Townhomes, 185 John Simpson Road, amended site plan. Sure. You just need to see the gentleman in the back room there.
Thought there was one here.
While we're setting up, I don't believe Mike or Pat had any comments, correct? And Rich, you want to take us through some of your comments, please?
Right, so they're presenting their visuals. The only comments we had, this was on for a secret determination. We came to the conclusion on the sewer assessment, and the recommendation is a bond is needed for future sewer studies, 1 year analysis of the sewer lines, and after the last CO is built, after the last CO is issued, and the potential to put in a relief sewer if necessary, depending on the results of that study. So that would be a condition of the approval going forward.
Okay, and a couple meetings ago, we resolved the water.
Yeah, so the only thing that was outstanding, so they were on here last time, it was a discussion on the sewer, it wasn't there, so.
Okay.
What are you watching?
Rich? Rich, the work being done on Fair Street now, is that for this development?
The work on Fair Street is has nothing to do with Centennial Golf Club.
It's right at that same area, yeah, okay.
That is, just so while they're setting up before they start talking, that is a Putnam County project. They're improving drainage on there. They're putting sidewalks in. They're burying some of the electrical wiring in that area. So if you notice behind Windwater now, they've put in a whole detention pond, or they're going to be putting in a detention pond, and these guys are ready. So I'll let the county talk to their own projects.
Thanks.
So please, the floor is yours. I know, I believe we left off with a strong focus on visual impact to the community.
Yes, sir.
I know we communicated a lot of that back and forth, so.
Yes, sir. So, good evening, Chairman and fellow members of the board. My name is Kevin Moses, here representing Toll Brothers as contract vendee and our partner and applicant, Centennial Golf Club. I will say I'd like to touch on the sewer stuff at the end of this. I'd love to get through the view shed first.
Sure.
If that would be at your pleasure. So as always, we appreciate the opportunity to be in front of you this evening, and as you had said, Chairman, to present and discuss the view shed analysis related to our project. Having driven the site myself yesterday, just wanted to make sure I had as much current information myself and made sure I understood the implications here as far as view sheds. It became clear to me that there are really only 2 view shed corridors that I believe are of concern, both of which we believe will be adequately mitigated by the proposed plans, landscape screening, et cetera. Now, what you will see on this first slide, Stacey, if you don't mind going back for me, are those 2 view shed corridors in question. And where they are really centric to our entrances. So I'll show you the proposed site plan in a moment, but the view shed corridor 1 is centric to our emergency access. The second view shed corridor is centric to the entrance to the site and to this project itself. Now, due to the existing topography, the existing vegetation along both Fair Street and John Simpson, we really feel, again, as though these are the only two potential viewshed corridors that could be impacted. Each of these, again, will be, in our opinion, adequately mitigated by the proposed landscape screening. Now, why do I say that? As you approach John Simpson Road on Fair Street, up until where that yellow line starts for viewshed corridor 1, there's very dense existing landscaping, just native and existing vegetation, in addition to topography that does not allow you to see into the site. So again, as you're approaching on Fair Street from the west, you don't really get a view into the throat of the project until you get to that yellow line, and it's a fairly short window. Now, where that yellow line ends as you approach John Simpson, the topography starts to rise. And as you turn the corner onto John Simpson, there is an existing berm. And I want to point out that in our grading plans and landscape plans, you will see that we are actually increasing the height of that berm on John Simpson up to and including 8 to 12 feet. That being said, just by nature of the proposed grading, we are insulating the site from the surrounding community. Now, what goes on top of that berm? Evergreen screening, trees, native plantings, et cetera. So,
Kevin, I'm sorry, whose property abuts the yellow line on John Simpson?
on the
That you described,
east or the
The
west?
dense vegetation you described.
So
Who owns that?
Centennial owns that land to the, I guess it's the west of John Simpson, and is part of our proposed project and application.
So you would assure that stays there?
Absolutely. In fact, the existing vegetation on Fair Street, Pat, is not impacted by the project whatsoever. However, the existing berm on John Simpson is being raised, again, up to including 8 or 10 feet.
Just getting to the point that it's not someone else's property, and they could cut down the trees.
Precisely. Now, the second viewshed corridor, as you approach the entrance coming south on John Simpson, we, again, believe that will be adequately mitigated, but the portion of John Simpson from Fair to viewshed corridor 2, again, will be mitigated via the berm and the landscape plantings. And then once you get further south past viewshed corridor 2, the topography actually starts to dip, right? And it goes down. So you can imagine as you go down, your ability to see past that diminishes greatly. And I will show you a couple views where it makes it very clear you won't have any view impacts whatsoever because of that existing topography, the existing berms on the golf course itself, et cetera. Next slide, please, Stacy. Thank you. So here's the site plan in front of us, and what is indicated on there is viewshed or view analysis 1, and that is at one of these points of the viewshed corridors, right? And that's at the entrance to the site and the project, and you can start to see on the lower image, the proposed image, the nature of that berm and the very dense evergreen screening. But again, you really only have a view into the project right at its entry, and it's obviously very difficult to screen an entry when you have a road, but there are some evergreen trees to help buffer those buildings. Next slide, Stacy. View 2 here, again, if you look at the key map, this is the second viewshed corridor. And you will see in that viewshed corridor that we have additional landscape screening and evergreen trees to help buffer those views where the project can actually be seen from the public realm.
So you won't be clearing right to the road like you're showing? You see on the plan by the 2, it shows that it's like grass right to the road and no trees? You gonna put some trees in there?
There will be trees in there, yes.
You may want to throw them in on your landscape plan so we see that.
Absolutely. I'm sorry, this is a slightly outdated plan, but
No,
yes.
it's fine, it's just, this way it's clear, otherwise, two different things.
Of course.
So on that proposed number 2 there, is that an entrance to the development there?
That is the emergency access, so it will not be a proper entrance.
That's off of Fair Street.
That is, sir, yes.
For emergency use, fire department, I guess, water department, if they had to get through there, something like that, that's the only time it'll be open.
Precisely. It will be gated as well.
Is that what you're talking about, Mike, with the landscaping?
So just above that, oh, sorry. just above that on Fair Street, by the two,
Yep.
there's like a clearing it shows on the map. They're
Yeah.
saying that there's gonna be trees there. If there are, just put them on
That's
the
a good
map
idea.
for the file, so the file's accurate to what's gonna be there.
Yes, we had reflected it in the rendering and neglected to put that on the plan. My apologies.
Yes, exactly right there.
Next slide, Stacy. So this is view 3, and this is at the corner of Fair Street and John Simpson. Again, and you look at the lower image, the proposed, you can start to get a sense of that berm and the dense evergreen buffer plantings, again, to help insulate the site from the public realm.
I like that, I like the proposed there.
How much fill do you think it'll be to bring that up? Is it gonna be the whole pad goes up?
It's a fairly significant amount of fill in that
Looks like it,
zone.
Yeah.
You know, I will say the berm is lower at that corner
Correct, and then it goes
than
up
it
from
is
there.
as you come down John Simpson, but I think the evergreen screening trees will really do justice there.
Both on the berm and before the berm, so you won't see. It'll actually break the berm for you too, which is nice.
You got it.
So the evergreens that you have in the rendering, I mean, some of them appear to be as tall or perhaps taller than the buildings. But when you put trees in, what height are you going to be putting them in at?
That will vary, but we're trying to show what is kind of a mature condition.
Mature, yeah, but you're talking a couple of years down the road for it to be mature.
Absolutely.
Yeah, if you
Absolutely.
plant mature now.
No, I know.
They don't grow as well
I
as
know.
putting small, so a smaller tree will grow faster than a large tree.
Yeah.
And they're easier to maintain.
Yeah, no, I know, we've gone through that a lot. so.
Absolutely.
All the proposed views show the elimination of overhead wiring. Is that the actual case?
No, that is not the case. I think that is artistic license.
That's what you're proposing.
Would be nice, yes, stamp that one quick.
Yeah.
The next picture, though.
So view 5, I believe we're on here, or is it view 4?
Four.
4. Another view of the berm, again, just to show its efficacy alongside the screening.
Oh, quick question. So the berm, we see it goes up from the road. When you get to the other side, does it go down or?
It does.
It does.
It does, yes.
No, you see the other side, just like when the bear goes over the mountain.
I didn't know if they were. Rough crowds?
It won't go down as much though. So, right, it'll go up, just say 12 feet on this side, and it'll go down only 8 feet on the other side.
I'm sorry?
The other side is higher than the roadside.
That is
So it
correct.
goes up and then only down a little bit. So the building side is not as much of a cliff as the street side. You're building a plateau, basically.
And it shows, is that showing a walking path there? That white line going on there?
Yes.
Right under the, that's a walking path on the other side of the berm, right?
Yeah.
It goes throughout the berm, both up the berm, through the berm.
Right, but it's a walking path. That's.
It is.
Yeah,
It's will satisfy our recreation area.
So, I don't know, it was Mike Rich that mentioned about the work on Fair Street now, they're putting sidewalks in. Do we need to be cognizant of that with this?
I don't think they're going that far down. Do you guys know that? I don't think they're going that far down with the sidewalks.
Maybe they should check with the highway and facilities and see.
I mean, it'd be a shame to just not align them if they're close by. I mean, I drove by there today, I saw all that work that's on Fair Street.
It's a mess.
Are they going on that side, sidewalk?
I didn't think they were bringing it that far down, to be honest with you. I haven't looked at those drawings in, 3 or 4 years, because that's how long ago they gave it to us.
I thought they were going to.
You're
go
more than
down.
welcome
They are.
to
That's what
give
I
me a
heard.
call tomorrow, any of you, right? And I'll get it to the board once I pull them out, and I'll tell
Nick
you where the
was-
sidewalks are going based on what I've been provided by the county.
Nick was saying he thinks they're going to Hillendale Road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which
I
is just
didn't think they were
before
going that far
Simpson.
down.
Yeah, I've heard that too, because I live right there, so I know, we've been watching it.
Just give a call tomorrow, and I'll make sure to get you what I have for the county to see what their drawings are.
Very good. Just so I'm clear there, are you insinuating you would want a connection to a public sidewalk?
Well, if there's a sidewalk, a public sidewalk that ends 10 feet from your sidewalk, it'd be a shame not to connect them, It just
Connect the trail, that is.
connect to,
Continue sidewalks along your property if you can connect to their property is what I
you have the
think.
road shoulder here. If they're doing a sidewalk, it should connect to that road shoulder, walking path, if you will, that little
On,
area there.
on Fair Street only, you're saying? Oh, okay.
So that your people can go up and use the
Sure,
sidewalk
sure.
to get up to the
Sure,
school or whatever they want to do.
Okay, copy, thank you.
I'm not sure it's even gonna, it might end 50 feet from you.
Got it.
No, I think it ends quite a distance from
Yeah,
the.
and that's fine, then, if it does, it does. Oh, yeah?
Do you know if we ever discussed anything with the parking by the pool? Remember we said that last time? See if we could increase some of the parking by the pool?
We're happy to take a look. It's, I would say maybe we could squeeze in a spot or two.
The only reason I was asking is if you live far away and you have little kids, and you get there and you walk all the way over and you can't park, or
Sure.
you go to park and you can't, you drive back home and then walk there. It's just a thought.
We can take a look.
You meet the requirements, so I'm not trying to
Gotcha.
say you're not meeting requirements. It's just if there's a way to provide more by a pool or a recreation, it's always helpful. These are the calls I get, so.
I hear you. It's a balance, right? I mean, for this type of site, we really imagine that there's going to be a lot of 55 and older folks that end up having interest in this type of community, being adjacent to the golf course and obviously just the general area itself. So, but happy to take a look. So view 5, again, I know I'm getting drab here. It's a lot of the same views, right? But we did want to try to drive the point home. So just another view of the berm there for view 5. And then 2 other views that I just wanted to point out, and this goes to my point about those viewshed corridors and where they start and end. You can see that view 6 on Fair Street at Hillendale, there's really no view into the property. That vegetation will be existing to remain. And then secondly, view 7 on John Simpson, as you start to descend the hill, you just get to a point where the topography doesn't allow your eye to really see into the site. So just wanted to point that out. And then lastly, I know there were some questions about Kelly Ridge, and then also at Hillendale as well. So we have another view here at the intersection of Hillendale and Fair. No real view shed into the site. And then secondly, Kelly Ridge, just due to the existing topography, there's really no ability to obtain a view into the site. And that's really it. This is the site plan, which you guys have seen many times, and figured I'd just keep that on the screen should there be any questions.
Any questions? I appreciate the effort put into that.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. Absolutely. Any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
No, I guess we can talk about then, was it the sewer you?
Yeah, so we had received the comment memo and recommendation on resolutions related to sewer and flow analysis. We had a couple of comments on that we would like to submit a letter back to the planning board, potentially as early tomorrow for your consideration. We don't want to necessarily slow the neg deck because we know this has been a long road for everyone and we look forward to bringing it to conclusion. However, this one item we would like to discuss one last time at the next meeting.
Sure.
If it would be at your pleasure, and delay the vote on the neg deck until January.
Sure, sure. Good. That's fine, right? We need to review the sewer. I know I'm backing up again. Can you tell us again what I'm looking at the visuals.
Yes, sir.
What the building material will be?
So there will be a mix of materials on there. I know I presented that last time, and I don't know that oh, here we go. I actually do have that on my deck. Stacy, I think it's the last slide. So we have vinyl siding shown on the home at present. We've got PVC trim, obviously for our window casements, door casements, et cetera. Standard, asphalt shingles.
Certainly you know your business better than I, but is it typically you build upscale, or I'll call this upscale, with vinyl?
So vinyl is, not necessarily the vinyl of old. The products are really quite good, and as far as durability, they're hard to beat. They last. They may have a moniker about them, but
I think they do. Yeah,
we readily sell, $1 million homes in a lot of different markets with vinyl siding.
And it's nice the way they change from vertical to horizontal and certain things. That just changes the whole look of the house. If you look at the larger white one, it's actually that one that's up on the thing.
Yeah.
They have vertical on the top and then horizontal. It just breaks up the whole look. It's kind of nice.
know,
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good point, Mike. I think it's just a thought of the vinyl, you know?
Yeah. Could change the name of it, maybe.
Call it something else.
Sure.
Questions from the board on anything on this project? Rich, Pat, Mike, any comments from your?
You had already directed us to draft a neg deck on this. We held it up to confirm the visual impact issues. So if you don't have to do anything, we'll have a neg deck at the next meeting if that's your pleasure.
Yeah, I'm satisfied with the visual impact. I was very concerned, as you know. I'll defer to everyone else on the board. Is there any other questions?
There are some 4s, I think there's a 5 on there. Give me one moment. Your question was the number of units per grouping?
It looks like 4s to me.
I'm sorry, the question?
No, I was asking if they're all 4-unit buildings. They all look like it, but
I think there's.
there could be a 5 squeezed in, but
Yeah, I think there's a 5 I think there's a 5 in there, but they're primarily 4s and 3s.
yeah, okay.
So,
So by putting the door on, oh, sorry.
So Pat, the next steps then would be,
You don't have to do anything, Mr. Chairman. We'll have the neg deck at the next meeting.
great, the next meeting will be the second Thursday in January. Just make-
fantastic. That gives
make
us
sure
some
you reach
time
out
to
Rose. Yeah,
work through the sewer, and can't thank you enough, as always, for your time and consideration.
good job on that visual impact, thank you.
Appreciate it very much.
Thanks.
Have a great evening.
You too.
You also.
It's going to be nice.
Yeah. I saw that Bob had commented to Rose on the September 25th and the October 10th minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as subject to the changes recommended.
Second, subject to.
All in favor?
Aye.
Have a nice evening.
I'll
Good
make a
night.
motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.